This has been a week where a lot of coaching hires have happened. Kicked off with the Bears actually stunningly, seemingly landing on what I think is the right guy with getting Ben Johnson away from Detroit. Jets hiring Aaron Glenn, so total brain drain in Detroit going on right now. Liam Cohen, after a very weird week, ends up as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars earlier today, and then the one for a team just down the road from us, which I said it on Punch On's, a little bit surprised by this move, even though he's a guy who we know can establish a winning culture, but will be 74 when the season kicks off. Pete Carroll gets the Raiders job, which is one of the, of course, one of the bigger rebuilds. That's not the Jets. We already said the Jets, and then not anymore, Ryan.
Should I write what I said earlier on Frank's show?
But Vrabel too, Vrabel, of course, gets hired last week in New England, leaving New Orleans and Dallas, where Jerry seemingly has no idea what he's looking for right now, and Dallas is the only two openings.
Schottenheimer Jr., right?
Yeah, very possible. It could be Brian Schottenheimer, which would be, I think, defeating the purpose of firing Mike McCarthy if you're doing that.
I don't know. Should I repeat what I said on Frank's show?
Yeah, different audience. So, go for it.
Everybody's saying Pete Carroll's too old. Pete Carroll's too old. The last two elections in this country, we elected presidents that are older than Pete Carroll. This is, by a margin.
Yeah.
4 years each,
And by the way, President of the United States seems to be a little bit more important of a job than the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. These guys have the nuclear codes and are making laws and everything else. So if we elected those two guys, now you can't say Pete Carroll's too old. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's going to be walking around mumbling and in diapers or whatever like that. Nah. We've already proved that we support old guys, right or wrong. We support them.
Old guys rule, right? No, you have. Listen, let's face it. You have to figure that Tom Brady was very much involved.
I'm sure he was
definitely
with the Pete Carroll. So you have to pay very close attention, I think, to Brady's thoughts on it. I think it's actually a good hire by the Raiders. And again, I mean, trying to reestablish. Pete Carroll's had success where he's been. He knows how to build teams. He knows how to get teams to get the most out of teams. I think he's got a lot of energy. I think with these hires, you also want to pay attention to how they impact not only their own staff but other staffs. You mentioned how now the Buccaneers are going to have to transition again from another offensive coordinator.
It's going to be, by the way, Vinny, OC number 8 for Baker Mayfield.
Exactly.
Right?
So the with them losing, and it was a top 5 offense last year, right? In Tampa. So with Jacksonville now taking the Buccaneers OC, we've had to, and on our side of the counter, there's 2 things that we've had to learn expensive lessons on. One is the importance and how intact and healthy offensive lines are, particularly in the postseason, but also watch the ripple effect of when offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators move. You mentioned it, Jeff. The Lions. Huge transition for what they just lost, right? The Eagles went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, right? And lost both coordinators, and we saw what happened to them. There was a lot of
train wreck.
Yeah. I mean, and there's still some issues, I think, with although Sirianni has, I think, bit wisely given more autonomy to both his coordinators.
2 pretty good coordinators.
In the second half of the season.
Best defensive coordinator in football.
And the team has responded.
You're right. Second best.
So, those are things to pay very close attention to.
It's going to be interesting to see what Dallas. I feel like New Orleans is going to hire Mike McCarthy. Dallas, I have no idea. If it's not Schottenheimer, we'll see.
I don't know. Is Schottenheimer such a terrible hire, you think? Really? Why?
He was our OC, right? He's been there already, right?
You know what? I have to reserve the I don't know what a first-time head coach is going to be, which is basically my party line at this point with a first-time head coach. But it just seems a little bit weird to me. If you're gonna hire Mike McCarthy's offensive coordinator who didn't call the plays. Why wouldn't you just keep Mike McCarthy if you're going to do that? That's my whole thing on that. And look, we like ragging on McCarthy all like most times.
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy's a perfectly fine head coach. He's won a Super Bowl. Yeah. His numbers are very similar to Mike Tomlin's.
Yeah, I mean, this year was a train wreck in Dallas for a variety of reasons.
Got hurt too.
Yeah, but I mean, you look, McCarthy coach in Dallas, they were good for 10, 11, 12 wins pretty much every year.
I think Big Mike was a perfectly reasonable league average head coach.
And one more thing, when we get to Pete Carroll, the Raiders needed a culture change.
That 100%.
More than a head coach. And they needed a head coach. God knows they need a quarterback. They need a lot of things. They needed a culture change. We can see what a culture change did to the Lions. That was a complete culture change. And, it started out, what was his record his first year? What was
in Seattle?
No. In Detroit.
Campbell?
Yeah, what was Campbell?
Campbell won 2 games. Campbell won 2 games.
Yeah, but you could see it was a culture change, and that culture built into, certainly one of the best teams in the NFL. I know they lost in last week to Washington, but still one of the best teams in the NFL. And I think some teams have a culture that's strong, and some need a culture that needs changing. And I think that the Raiders were, Exhibit A on a culture that needed changed. And, listen, for this town, I think it would be good for Pete and for the team if he could change that culture. I got to tell you, Brady being part of it doesn't hurt either.
No,
so, you got a couple of guys that are proven winners.
Campbell, by the way, sorry, I shortchanged Detroit. They were 3-13-1 year one.
Oh, he had that tie against the Steelers.
Before they even won a game that year. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Parles.
And I'm Alex White. Thank you for watching this clip of Sports by the Book. Please like the video, comment, and subscribe.
We live stream the show right here every day on this channel. Also, you can catch the podcast version on your favorite podcast platform.
All the links are in the description below. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.